Got the playoffs going on.
Yep. Yep, it's going to be a good one. I think it's going to end up being Lakers and Nets. So that's going to be lit. So
I'm a Utah Jazz fan, so I'm hoping my team can get at least into the second round. Let's see though.
yeah, it's possible. Anything's possible, man. In the 7 game series, LeBron and Kawhi standing in your way. So it's going to be some good games.
Yeah. Do you want to go ahead and give an introduction to the people watching this live? Who you are, your blog that you run, give a little background on your ex-Amity background.
Sure, yeah. So I'm an ex-Amity from California. Pretty much raised here my entire life, like 98% of my life. Grew up praying as many times a day, probably 4 or 5 times a day. I used to be the muezzin of the house, especially for Fajr. I used to wake everyone up for Fajr. My dad taught us how to read the Quran as best as he could. Um, and then I grew up, went to college. I was in the Air Force for a while, and then Google hit, and then the information changed, and so I was there for the change. So the first thing I did was start reading about stuff, and I started reading about who I was and what religion we're in, and uh, I always doubted Jesus in India. I always in the back of my head was like, what is this thing? Like, can I read something? Is there anything I can read? And back in the 90s, we didn't have material. You had to literally go to a guy who would have the knowledge, and then you wouldn't be able to double check them. So I grew up in that kind of environment. And then once I started reading, that's when I started getting in trouble with, the family, with my dad and other people who were fluent in like the local community, you know. And I went to Rabwa in like 2003 and 2004, and I walked around for 2 to 3 weeks, as a young man, and I saw things that shocked me. So, and then I started reading. First, I went to alislam.org, which is the Qadiani Amdi website. Read everything they had in English. Knocked that out. Didn't take long. Um, then there's also a Lahori Amnis. Do you know about the Lahori Amnis?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So also in the back of my mind was if we're the chosen Jamaat, if we're the best of people, and we solved all the problems, and I was like, but why did we have a split that contradicts the whole split? So I read all of Muhammad Ali's books. He was the main leader, not the boxer. So I read all of his books. They were all in English, not all of them, like maybe 80%. And I was like, oh, we have a problem. Houston, we have a problem. And then I started reading about Islam and the prophethood thing. I said, hold on. I was told, or the information was sort of given to me that it's neck and neck, our arguments and their arguments, whatever. As I read it the first time, I'm like, this is not the story. I mean, there isn't one hadith on the ending of prophethood. It's like in the hundreds. And I was like, it's like 100-0, literally. We're in a war where we've lost 100-0, and we are just refusing to confess. We are in denial. We're being loyal. Anytime someone starts asking you about being loyal, you should know something's up. Just offhand. If someone starts talking about your loyalties and et cetera, it's like, what do you want, bro? You know what I mean? What do you want me to say? So in Ahmadiyya, it's straight up a loyalty thing. Their imams, their murabbis are paid, right? So mostly in Sunni Islam, I don't know about Shia Islam, an imam is hired to work at a local masjid, and that's as long as the local masjid feels like it, right? In Ahmadiyya, there's a process. First, you got to go to their school and graduate. It's 7 years, but some people get grandfathered in. So if you're a white guy, they want you to be their imam, that you won't even have to go to school.
Wow.
Whether you know Arabic or not.
Is there a reason why they prefer the white people over this?
It's a sales. It's a sales pitch, right? Everywhere they go, they're looking to get a local. They're looking to convert a local. Any country. Say they go to Guatemala, they're told find someone who's down on their luck. Let's give him a job, make him be loyal to us, and now we have a face in this country. So they also did that with the African American community in America. There was a guy named Rashid Ahmed. He was a pimp. He was not a good guy. He went to Jamia, didn't even pass Arabic. He failed Arabic at their Jamia. They still made him an imam. Right, then they said, no, he's not really an imam. He's more administrative. He's doing more like administrative works. It's like, what? So there's this guy, he's on Twitter too. I'm forgetting his name, but he's like 6'8" Canadian, didn't even go to Jamia. They grandfathered him in. So they get these guys to teach their community. They go to the community and say, be loyal to the Khalifa. Don't question us. Be loyal to the Khalifa. Give your money. So they're like the foundations of the organization, sort of how like the Catholic priest.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah. we know how bad the Catholic priests have been. So, but that's sort of the introduction. I grew up. I went to college. I have a doctorate as of right now. I'm like a college professor. I won't say where or anything like that. Alhamdulillah. So, I mean, I could read and write a little bit, you know what I mean? And I knew some Arabic. So I came across the material from a neutral perspective, and I was like, oh, boy, do we have some problems here, right? And that was just on prophethood. I came up with all these issues, right? Then I started going towards Isa al-Islam. And I just couldn't believe it. And actually, it wasn't Mirza Ghulam Ahmad. It was a guy named Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. Are you Pakistani, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you heard of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan?
It doesn't sound familiar now.
Yeah, he was working for the British. They gave him the Sir. He was knighted. I mean, dude, you wanted to be knighted with the British government? That's lame, bro. Hold on. What do you want?
The charger.
I need the charger because I'm gonna need it. Okay, so as the British are in India, right? They take over India from the Mughals. Do you know what fiqh the Mughal Empire used?
No.
So it's Hanafi fiqh.
Okay.
That's the law. That's what all Muslims are being judged by. Doesn't matter your personal opinion. Whatever, even if you're a Shia, actually, I'm not exactly sure, but there were some Shias and there were a lot of Sufis. But anyhow, the Mughals lose it to the British. The British come in, they take everything, and now the British are running this business. So there's like a huge mutiny with Indian soldiers and pig fat to lube the rifle. They tried to fight the British. It almost worked. The British got scared. The British were like, we need to get Muslims to stop believing that someone's going to come save them. No Mahdi, no jihad, no Isa. No one's coming. So this guy, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, says, okay, I can make that work. So he had the Aligarh College. He started the Aligarh College. And he says in the 1870s, Isa al-Islam is dead and never coming back. First Muslim to ever say that in history. No one ever said that. Muslims did say Isa might have died and then got lifted up and then he's going to come back, and then he's going to die. Maybe it was a temporary death. Maybe it was the death of sleep. This has been like, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how he went. It's like, bro, we can argue 1,000 things inside of Islam that are irrelevant. You know what I mean? So the ijma was Isa bin Maryam al-Islam is going to come back physically, right? Isa physically is going to come back. No one else. No one ever doubted this. Even Ibn Abbas said mutawafika means mumitaka. He meant that's when Isa returns. And that verse is out of sequence. Wa does not connotate sequence. Wa mutawafika wa rafeoka, or wherever you see wa in the Quran, it doesn't connotate sequence all the time, not necessarily. So he said the verse is backwards, and what it's saying is he'll die when he comes back. But that's the minority view. These are minority views. The majority was he didn't die. Um, he got physically lifted to the second heaven, or I can't remember exactly. Maybe it's the fourth heaven, the samawate, not Jannah. He's not in Jannah. He's in the samawate. So Sir Sayyid Ahmad Khan says nope, and no Mahdis coming. There's no jihad. Nope, all that's out the door. So Mirza Ghulam Ahmad is there. He knows about all that. He copies them. In fact, Sir Sayyid Ahmad Khan wrote a tafsir of the Quran, and he used the word Ahmadiyya. Mirza Ghulam Ahmad stole that from him too. How crazy is that? He just stole almost everything this guy came up with. The only thing Sir Sayyid hadn't came up with was prophethood, and Mirza Ghulam Ahmad saying it hasn't ended, and Jesus in India. Those are probably the only. Everything else he stole. Sir Sayyid said Adam alayhi salam was not the first man. Mirza Ghulam Ahmad copied. Sir Sayyid Ahmad Khan believed in evolution. By saying that, he was supporting Darwinism. And Mirza Ghulam Ahmad supported it too. Sir Sayyid Ahmad Khan said Isa alayhi salam had a biological father. Astaghfirullah. The Lahori Ahmadis still believe it to this day. Qadiani Ahmadis also, the Qadiani Ahmadis don't believe in miracles, right? So they said maybe Maryam was a hermaphrodite. Astaghfirullah. What are these guys talking about, man? Right? So
I've heard tons of nonsense just of their beliefs, and I read a little bit off the blog as well, but just the belief of how they view Isa alayhi salam and Maryam alayhi salam is it's very blasphemous.
Extremely blasphemous, bro. But they don't care. You know, the British were like, yeah, let's break the Hanafi fiqh, because the Ottoman Empire was also Hanafi fiqh. So the British are like, whatever this Hanafi fiqh is, we got to destroy it. It's got to come to an end, right? So in Indonesia, they use Shafi fiqh. In Indonesia, the Philippines, East Africa, it's a lot of Shafi, right? So they wanted to break that. Sir Sayyid wrote the foundation of how to break it. And then Mirza Ghulam Ahmad followed up. And Mirza Ghulam Ahmad said, well, no one's going to listen to Sir Sayyid. So he says, if I say I'm a prophet, now they legally have to listen to me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's why he took it there. And he planned it all from the beginning. He denied the miracles of Isa. And okay, before I forget, you would mention in one of your TikToks, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad said the people who don't accept him are non-Muslim, right?
Yes.
It gets worse. In 2006, they edited the PDF version of that book and edited it out, right? And actually, I'm talking about Tazkara. I think you quoted Essence of Islam, which is a compilation.
Yes.
In Tazkara, so in Essence of Islam, it's still there. In Tazkara, the English PDF 2006, gone, whacked it. 2009 edition of Tazkara, not there. No explanation given. 2018, I think it's a 2018 version, not there. So they know we're bringing all this up, and they're going back and editing their books, bro.
Wow.
That's what we're dealing with, bro.
What do they do with all their original work?
It's all missing. Bro, we're late to the party. All the original books of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, they were only published 100 years ago. You won't find any. They burned them all, edited them in the 1980s, and called it Rahuni Zain and put it all in one set and changed all the page numbers up. So all the previous people who quoted all these books, their references don't line up anymore.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, so they're probably like holes in their quotations and stuff.
So if you tell an Amity, go to Siratul Mahdi or this book page, they'll go there and call you a liar. They'll be like, oh, it's not here. Well, you're looking in the newest edition. We quoted the one from here.
Yeah.
So it's a neat trick. So it's a business, right? And for your business, I mean, you know how desi people are about their business and their money.
Yeah.
When it comes to their business, they'll do anything to keep it going, bro. So that's the story in like a nutshell, bro. You know, and I'm all over these guys. You know, they know I'm all over them. I'm a pain in their side, and then they tried the character assassination on me. I had this guy call me a bastard on live video.
I saw that.
Yeah. Then he got mad because he starts trash talking with me on Discord, and I start talking about his mama, which I try to tell him, hey, in America, bro, that's like that's if you want to start the trash talk, I mean, come on, like, yeah, it's probably not right, but once you took it there, you're mad at me for what I said in response. You can't throw the first rock. So this is what they did in Pakistan, and this is what they're doing. They're going out to annoy people and then cry persecution, right?
No, this is true because I make videos about them, and then I see them in my DMs, right, in my message requests, and at first they want to debate me and whatever. Then it gets a little chippy, right, and then they start insulting me. Then they start throwing out insults. And I had one kid said that he was going to box me. Yeah, this kid from Toronto. He's friends with Shazzy, actually.
Yeah.
He said he's going to box me and everything, and this actually goes against their whole love for all, hatred for none, does it not?
It does.
Slandering people. And a while back, I had even this one kid. He's known on here. His name's Mujib. He was making fun of my appearance and I was on live, and we were reacting to Masroor Ahmad reciting the Quran and how horribly he recites the Quran, and they're insulting me, right?
Yeah.
So this goes against their love for all, hatred for none, but it's what I believe is that it's a front. It's a front just to get the non-Muslims, the non-Ahmadis, to make it look like they are peaceful people.
That's exactly the game that these guys are playing. They sided with the British during World War II. They got a lot of perks. They were given Rabwa. Have you heard of Rabwa in Pakistan? You've heard of it, right?
Yes.
Do you know where it's at, like general? Do you know where it's generally at, like in what area of the Punjab?
I saw a map of it, but they renamed it something.
Janab Nagar.
Yeah.
You know why? Because Rabwa is a word of the Quran. Rabwa is in the Quran, chapter 23, verse 50. And Rabwa is where Isa and his mother were given refuge when Isa's mother was giving birth. Right? So Mirza Ghulam Ahmad flipped this and said, no, the Rabwa is in Kashmir, and it's where Isa died. So, yeah, dude, it's total nonsense. So, like, once I went back and checked the authentic, like, Tafsir Ibn Kathir, Suyuti, I checked those, and I'm like, no, bro, because no one ever even said anything like what MGA is saying. So, okay, so yeah, it's all the front for because no one's converting to Ahmadiyya. That's the other problem. So they're getting people from Pakistan to come here, pay hella chanda. They got to do in Germany. They're running it too. In Germany, it's getting bad for them. Like some family killed their daughter because she was about to get married to a Sunni.
Yeah, I heard that it's very against their beliefs to get married to Sunnis and Shia. They can't even go to their janazas or weddings.
Yeah, so like when my parents die, I don't even think they'll call the cops if I try to show up to the janaza. And yeah, it's that bad. So yeah, they got Rabwa. There's barely any of them, bro. In the whole world, I estimate about 150,000 in the whole world. There's not many at all. They got governmental support. So after World War II, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's grandson was an executive in the World Bank. Do you know what the World Bank is? Yeah, so I'm like a business major, so like the World Bank is in Washington D.C. They've been giving loans to countries after World War II, and they had a Mirza working there in 1970. They got people in high places working for their interests. So that's what we're dealing with. They're a holdover from the colonial days, you know, and that's how they should be treated, as a holdover from the colonial era. That's what these people are. You know, Muslims have without a proper imam, a system for imams, without any proper systems, we're here, and the ummah looks amazing in America, brother. I see Muslims everywhere, man. You know, in San Jose, in the Bay, if you know about San Jose, the MCA Jummah is like 4 Jummahs, bro. There's too many people. You know, they literally have to have like 3 or 4 Jummahs in one day. You know, so yeah, bro, that's sort of the story. Qasim Rashid, are you on the East Coast, in like Virginia area, maybe?
No, I'm on the west, but I know about Dawson Creek.
Oh, yep. So he ran for Senate and Congress. You see what I mean? He was their guy to run for Senate and Congress. He's got the Khalifa's approval, right? They got Harvard lawyers working their asylum cases, you know, and they're attacking Muslims every day. They're the biggest enemies of Islam in the world.
That makes sense because they're trying to bring us, you know, straight away from our core belief in Islam, that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the last prophet. And I'm going to address something in the comments because people are asking why Shazzy and other people are getting muted. Shazzy is sending his friends, and they are accusing me of being in haram relationships. I want to let you guys know that accusing someone of being in a haram relationship or being close to committing zina, that is a crime in an Islamic country. That is a crime under the Sharia. So I already made videos about how Shazzy's friends, they slander me, so this is why they got muted on my live. But continue, brother.
Dang, see, they just can't stop, bro. They just cannot stop. It's you know, and then they cry persecution, and they do the same thing in all these other countries, in Pakistan. These people are sick, man. These people are sick, and then they harass Muslims. They've harassed every single Muslim personality I've seen on the internet. Period. Period.
They're always in my DMs as of right now because I made a few videos on their beliefs, and they're all in my DMs saying that they would like to meet me, fight me, this and that.
Yep. Then they're dude. So I got a brother who's running around right now in the different circles, right? And he's trying to do the same thing, dude. Oh, so look. Here's funny. Here's what's funny. I can read the Quran, right? Because I grew up. I mean, come on, right? I'm not leading salat at a masjid or anything like that, but I mean, come on, right? So my brother starts accusing me of not being able to read the Quran, and so I'm like, oh, okay. What about Mirza Ghulam Ahmad? He couldn't say the ayin. He couldn't say the ayin. So what are you talking about, right? So we eventually got Smile to Jannah to go through his Fatiha, and he ripped him. Totally wrecked him. Muzzy Buzz got him too. So Muzzy Buzz got him first. They came on his live and started accusing me of not knowing the Quran or whatever. And then Muzzy was like, oh, well, let's check out your Khalifa. So he goes and he's like, oh, the Khalifa kid doesn't know it.
Yeah, so I see some of these Qadianis in the comments. They're saying for you to read the Quran, but they should know that their own Khalifa can't even read the Quran. I have a 10-year-old cousin, mashallah, he reads the Quran better than their Khalifa. This guy's supposed to be a leader. This guy's supposed to be a leader of a group of Muslims, so-called Muslims.
Right. So they're only getting themselves in trouble, dude. I don't really get it, you know, because the more they keep saying that, the more people are gonna see the videos about their Khalifa. There's so many at this point, and people are gonna leave Ahmadiyya immediately. You know, because it goes back to the Mirza family. Okay, so here's the reason he can't read the Quran properly. The Mirza family doesn't learn the Quran from imams. It's beneath them, right? So they learn from each other. So look, it's the lineage. And look, Allah has cursed their tongue, brother.
Yep.
It's really that simple. If you really think about it, you know, I didn't do it to him. So all you gotta do is listen to the first few sentences of Fatiha. Rabbil Alameen, not Rabbil Alameen. And the case is over. The guy obviously doesn't say the ayin every time it appears, which is a lot. Even the word Asa has the ayin, bro. It's not an aleph or whatever. Yep. So what else, bro?
So I heard that, like, I remember earlier you said when you went to Rebel, you said that you had seen some pretty crazy stuff. Can you elaborate on some of the stuff that you've seen when you visited Rebel?
Yeah. So this is back in 2003. So this is back in the days of the internet cafes, right? So I'm like, I gotta go check my email. That was the only way to communicate was email. So I start checking my email. It was like midweek, and I'm at the internet cafe, and then I look to my right. I glance, and I do a double take. This guy's watching pornography. No, like what? What? So I'm like, oh no, and I'm like, okay, maybe it's the heat. I'm seeing stuff. I glance again, and yep, he is. So I immediately get up. I leave. I go back to my mom's uncle's house, and I tell my cousin, I'm like, yo, bro, what's going on? There's a dude watching pornography at the internet cafe. He was like, oh no, he was like, this is nothing. It's nothing. It's nothing. I'm like, what do you mean it's nothing? He goes, oh, well, I got kicked out of Rubwa for a year because me and my friends were doing it. And we had this whole house where we'd have a bunch of dudes come over and we'd all watch together. And I'm like, yo, that's the weird. I was like, is that what you guys do out here? It's like, I'm so glad I didn't grow up here, right? I don't know what that's about, but we don't do that, bro, ever. Like, that's a no fun, right? So he tells me all that, and then and I'm like, oh, okay. So I tell like an imam. I met some imam who's like, yeah, I'll take you to the ones that are good. I was like, are there ones that are like under investigation? He was like, yeah, and that's one of them. So then, like, I remember seeing a prostitute walk through the streets. I remember if you go into the stores, everyone's trying to rob you. You come in and they look to see, is he a visitor or is he a local? And they change the prices. And I was like, bro, not in the holy city of Rubwa, bro. I get it in Faisalabad, Lahore, bro, it's whatever. This is Rubwa, man, right? So then all the masjids are empty. If you go to Fajr, Maghrib, Isha, Zuhr, Asr, they're all empty. Every time I went. So I was like, bro, where is everyone? You know what I mean? So
these people are supposed to be the followers of the so-called Mahdi, and they're not even praying their salah in their so-called holy city.
Right. And then there's like a huge homeless problem in Rubwa. The beggars are out. The beggars, Rubwa is like 10 times more expensive than the surrounding cities because of the foreign presence, right? So the beggars bus in, and you can't sit down to have an ice cream. Your 4 or 5 beggars will walk past you and be like, let me get something. So I was not impressed, man. And then I started asking people, because, I can read Urdu with a magnifying glass and going slow. I don't feel like it. I don't want to spend 2 hours doing that, right? So I can read a little bit, not enough to be reading books and etc. So I started asking people, hey, have you guys read all the books? And they were like, no. And I was like, why not? They're in like your language. Why would you not read them? I'm not understanding. And they're like, we just believe it. We're not like currently investigating it or anything like that. So as I came back to America, I started reading the books. The explosion happened, right? And the forums, Back then, before Reddit, you could go on any forum. You go to a Cubs forum, you could go to a whatever forum, and you could create your own, even about music, right? And then we used to steal music, right? Not steal, but you download, someone have it download, right? Um, so I just started reading that, and that's when the explosion happened. And then I went to my like local imam, and I asked him. I said, "Hey, is it true that Mirza Ghulam Ahmad denied his prophethood for 20 years, and then finally said, 'Oh, you know what? I am a prophet. I know I denied it. I know I said anyone who claims it's a kafir. I know I said all that. I didn't know there's another kind of prophethood that can be achieved.'" So I asked him that, and then he was like, "You're not an Ahmadi." He just says it in the middle of a. This is like in the middle of the question, and I was like, What are you talking about?" So he didn't know the answer to the question. So that's how he responded. And then I think he looked it up, and then a month later he was like, "Yeah, he did change." Because other people were like, "No, he didn't change. He was the same since day one. He claimed to be a prophet the same time he claimed to be a Messiah." And I was like, "Dude, that's not the story, man." Because if you listen to the Lahoris, they'll show you that that's not the story. Qadianis won't show it. So and then I started asking more questions, and then I started getting in trouble, and then I sort of went quiet for a few years. You know, crazy stuff, man. And then a lot of personal stuff happened. These people fired me. I lost my job over this stuff. They tried to take so many things from me, but alhamdulillah, brother, I end up better off than I was before. I'm off every summer. I'm off right now. I'm on paid vacation. So and I don't know a lot of people. Like even people who make 200,000 to 300,000 a year. They work every day. You know what I mean? And alhamdulillah, I work from home. I mostly teach online, and I'm off in the summer. So like I'm they'll say, "Oh, you're cursed because of what you said and did," and I'm like, "Nah, bro, I'm right here. I'm tenured. I got freedom of speech. I could say almost anything I want, man. I can have opinions, political opinions about anything, and the Constitution allows me to do that. So, they want me to get fired. You know what I mean? They want me dead, basically, you know. But alhamdulillah, Allah, I got Allah. So I mean, what are they gonna do, bro?
Exactly. So I think Brother Imad actually asked how. I think we already answered that, but I had seen that you went on to Brother Rami's podcast, and you kind of spoke about how they ask a lot of their followers to pay such large amounts of their chanda money, and where. So if you could like explain how much of this chanda money are they taking, and then how is it applied within their jamaat?
Yeah, and I don't remember, brother. Oh, was that the three Muslims? Yeah, 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 yeah. So okay, Christians pay the tithe. It's 10%, right? Muslims, bro, you put money in a basket at Jummah, bro, or after Salat, or let's do a fundraiser, bro. There's no subscription. There's no membership. In America, they got membership codes. So it's a business. When you're running a business like the Catholic Church, this is so they collect 6.25% of net, right? Off top. So and they want to where they get their money first. This is even before taxes. They don't care about any of that. About did you pay taxes or not, or any of that. You can forget all of that, right? So then if you wanna go to heaven, you pay 10%. There's something called wasiyat. Have you heard of like the wasiyat thing?
Yeah.
Mirza Ghulam Ahmad says, if you give me a third of your wealth, you could be buried in this graveyard and you'll go to heaven. But then he says, not everyone can go to heaven. So it's a yes and a no. Same thing with prophethood. So remember this, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad is the last prophet. He claimed to be the last prophet. They don't believe in other prophets after him. In fact, everyone who's claimed to be a prophet after him has got kicked out of the Jamaat. right? So don't believe them when they want to come talk to you about Hatam al-Nabiyyin and nonsense. They only believe Mirza Ghulam Ahmad himself said he was the only one in the Ummah who was called a prophet. So what does that mean? Then he called himself a Hatam al-Hulafa, the last Hulafa in the line, and then he compared himself to Isa salam and said the way that Isa was the Hatam al-Hulafa of the Mosaic dispensation, I'm the Hatam al-Hulafa of the like he's saying it under his breath, right? So then his son came on after he died, and his son was like, even 1,000 prophets could come. Nah, bro, we call that uh because I don't want to cuss on here, but we call that nonsense. You know, so it's all a smoke screen, bro. They're hiding the real story. They're hiding who Mirza Ghulam Ahmad was. He even claimed to be Krishna.
Yeah. I heard about this. Yeah.
And why did he do that? It's a marketing thing, you know, to get some Hindus. Yep. Maybe a Hindu will huh?
It makes sense because, like you were explaining earlier, it's all like their political motive from the British, and it would make sense to get more support. And obviously, if he spoke to the Hindus or if he claimed to be Krishna, then maybe they would be like, okay, so let's hear them, let's follow him.
Yeah, and hey, it didn't even work. It didn't even work. The Muslims that joined were like Wahhabi types, Ali Hadith. The Ali Hadith sect were essentially the Wahhabis of British India. So
yeah. So I don't know if you do know this or not. You probably do, but have you heard of? I think maybe I found this off of your blog, but I read somewhere that Mirza was very blasphemous, not only towards the prophets, but also the family of the prophets. So, like Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him's family, and then Isa al-Islam's family as well.
Bro, it's out of control, man. He said, first off, he called Abu Huraira a gubby, which in Arabic means idiot, stupid. And the reason he said it, because there's a Sahih Hadith in Bukhari from Abu Huraira, wherein Abu Huraira says that Isa al-Islam is going to physically descend. And then he quotes chapter 4, verse 159. So Mirza's like, how do I get out of this one? Well, Abu Huraira didn't know anything. What, Abu Huraira? What are you talking about? He's like, I think him and Aisha are like the two top five of Hadith narration, right? Absolutely crazy. So here's what they said. They said when Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam died, all the Sahaba became stupid, and they all had already believed that Isa was alive. And Abu Bakr corrected them and said, no, all the messengers have died. When that's not true. The word all is not there. It's many messengers have come and gone. So what if one dies? You know, that's the whole point is don't turn your back. If even Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam would have been killed, which Allah would have never allowed it. But, you know, even if, and there were prophets that had been killed, had been assassinated, like Yahya al-Islam, and many others, like, and the Quran talks about it. So he said that, he said that. Then he said he has 1,000 Husseins in his pocket. Then he didn't like the name Fatima. No Ahmadi names their daughter Fatima. I haven't seen it. Maybe a few here and there out of touch. The ones who are in touch, they don't name their daughters Fatima. How sick is that? That's one of the most beautiful names in Islam. I know women from Puerto Rico who are named Fatima, Fatima, however, because they pronounce it a little bit different. That's only because Arabic crept into the Spanish and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But then he said the second Ahmadi who was killed and that was in Afghanistan, Sayyid Abdul Latif. He said when he was killed, that was greater than when Hassan and Hussein were killed. He goes, those are small things. Then he accused Isa al-Islam of so much bro. He said about Noah. He said something just, oh, bro, some of the most just I like. I'd have to pull it up on the blog because I don't exactly remember, but he said something like, uh, um, if the flood would have came for my people, you know what? I'm gonna look this up because I can't believe I can't remember. It's just gonna take me a second. I'm hitting the blog and search the word Noah, and he disrespected Yusuf. Oh, he said if the people of Noah had been given the amount of signs that he had been given, they wouldn't have died terribly. So he was saying he's got more signs from Allah than Nuh al-Islam. What is this, guy? What is this nonsense? Like, what is why, bro? You don't have to say any of these things, man. You know, they just don't really make a lot of sense. You know, he claimed to be superior to Yusuf al-Islam. He claimed to be better than Yusuf. Um, and he says, because look, Yusuf al-Islam had to go to jail. He was like, I've never been to jail, so I'm better than him. Then he claimed to be better than Isa al-Islam, because he said the second Messiah is better than the first Messiah. Then he said he's the second coming of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he says Muhammad in his second coming has more Sean than his first appearance. Like, bro, why? Why did you take it there, bro? Why? Makes no sense, brother. It makes no sense. And then the people who support him, this is their livelihood. They'd be working at the Sprint store. And there's nothing wrong with working at the Sprint store, but they'd be working at Walmart. You know, they'd be selling hot dogs at the park or something like that, man. They wouldn't be, you know, the majority of the imams in Ahmadiyya aren't even allowed to go to college. They're not allowed, you know. And I know hella imams that have like doctorates in like religious studies, man. Like, you know, these guys know their stuff, bro. It's not, you know, this isn't a game, bro. You know, and they've learned from other imams and etc. So with Isa al-Islam, and you know what? They call it Ilzami Jawab, allegatory responses. You see what I mean? So Mirza Ghulam Ahmad says, no, I only meant it in trash talk. This is just I didn't mean. So he even said Yahya was more righteous than Isa al-Islam because Yahya al-Islam didn't get massages by Kanjaniya. What is this guy? What is he on, bro? He even said Maryam. He even took it so far. He said Maryam used to meet Joseph before she got married. And this is how the Jews, they used to allow it. You know that they'd say in Punjabi, you know, shadi honi wali, they're gonna get married anyways. So let's let them meet him. You're talking about, if you say that about your next door neighbor, whatever. If you say that in the middle of a game, whatever. You're saying that about Maryam, brother. You know, be careful. But in British India, he had freedom of religion.
Yeah.
So who's gonna stop him? So what else, bro?
I think that's mainly what I wanted to speak about. But also, I made a video on, you know, there's a belief of him metaphorically being Maryam al-Islam and the metaphorically giving birth. So explain to the people watching this what blasphemy Mirza claimed about being metaphorically pregnant.
Yeah, so remember, he from day one he was gonna make all his claims. So he slowly slips them in. In 18, so his first book that he ever wrote was the Brahini Ahmadiyya series. It shouldn't have been a series. It should have been one book with 300 arguments in favor of Islam. Part 1 and 2 come out. It's not even a book. It's an advertisement. What the heck is this? So part 3 and part 4 come out, and he's got these revelations that he's publishing. So he's immediately called a kafir because he denied the miracles of Isa. And they're like, what do you got like verses of the Quran as your revelation, man, that were given to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They're being revealed onto you again. Like, what are you talking about, right? So he has a revelation where he becomes Maryam for 10 months, and then he gives birth, etc. But he doesn't say what it means. You follow me on this? But he put it in that book, and he says he didn't comment on it. 20 years later, he says, this is how I became Isa. It was a slow process. And also in that book, he has a revelation where he says, Fatima put put my head on her thigh like a child. But he means it like I'm her son or her grandson. He means it, I'm her great, 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 great grandson. So 20 years later, he uses it. And he says, you know what? I was the Mahdi this whole time. Ever since I got that revelation, that was Allah telling me I'm the Mahdi. So that's what we're dealing with, and these Qadianis don't like me because I know the books. I know when he said it. I know, my YouTube channel, it's all for free. I've written 1,800 essays on this stuff for free. I've spent almost 4 hours a day for over the last 15 years working on this stuff. So, when I start talking to these guys, I can easily figure out what they're doing, why they're doing it, and I'm like, bro, it's easy. When Mirza Ghulam Ahmad gave his arguments in 1891 why Isa al-Islam died, he was academically dishonest. He didn't show the picture. He said, oh, Imam Malik believed that Isa al-Islam died. Okay, but what else did he believe? He believed that he died at 33. He was physically lifted to Allah, and it's the death of sleep. He's going to physically return. So it's like, why are you guys quoting him? How come Mirza Ghulam Ahmad quoted him? Because that's not. If you go to college, your essay will be thrown out because it's dishonest. You're twisting little things, in whatever direction, and then. The Yuz Asif theory just takes the cake. Have you seen the gravesite that he picked out?
Yeah, the one in Kashmir.
Yeah, finished. Halas, they're done. You did what? Okay, he couldn't just keep it to Isa's dead. Okay, say that, bro. You said he lived to age 120 and died. And then, have you heard of the town Murree in Pakistan? I know you heard of Murree.
Yeah.
They say that's where Maryam died. So they say not only did Isa flee, Maryam fled. What are you guys talking about? This is the biggest nonsensical thing, So Muslims in Pakistan, you said you're Pakistani, we lived with them. We dealt with them. They got jobs in the military. They got jobs in the government at a disproportionate rate. They had their own city, a state within a state. No one could even go into Rabwa until 1974. Yeah. They got all of this. They got, all the perks. And then they didn't want to be in Pakistan anymore. So they purposely, this is my opinion, they purposely, behind the scenes, got Zia-ul-Haq to pass Ordinance 20. And that's how the Khalifa moved out of Pakistan. There was no other way for him to leave Pakistan. The only way is if you marry someone in the UK, or you get a job, or the third one's asylum. So I'm telling them, and whoever's listening, this whole asylum game is the Mirza family throwing Ahmadis under the bus. A few of them die, they don't care. You think they care if Ahmadis die? Come on, man. And only like 300 have died in over 100 years. It's probably even less than that. It's not at the rate that Palestinians are dying, or not even close. But do Palestinians get asylum? No. Do Lahori Ahmadis get asylum? Only these people get asylum. Do Shias get asylum in Pakistan? The Shias got it worse. Why do these people get it? Oh, because they're in with the government.
That makes sense, yeah.
So that's our battle. I have a lot planned. I need to testify in front of the United Nations about the Ahmadiyya situation. I need to talk to as many congressmen as possible, as many senators as possible, tell them this is the story. These people are harassing Muslims all over the world. They won't have an honest conversation with us. We've allowed them to breathe. We've allowed them to live. Religious freedom doesn't mean go out and harass people about religion.
Yeah.
Religious freedom means you should be able to pray whenever in your places of worship. You want to take it out on the street? I'm not exactly. I think every state could have a different law on public displays of religious. Obviously Shias can't beat themselves in public in America, right? But in Pakistan, I think it's allowed, right? In the Mughal Empire, it wasn't allowed. I mean, can you imagine if the Mughal Empire allowed the Shias to do something like that? Yeah. So then here's another piece. How come they didn't move the Qadian India? Ahmadis aren't persecuted in India.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah.
Isn't that where your most holiest site is? Why won't you go back? So Qadian is like 85% Sikh and Hindu at this point, right? But why the Khalifa could move back in? They could build housing. They got a lot of fields out there. He could live in Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's old buildings. No one lives there. It's a mansion complex. But no, he said no. Why would he go to India? He wants to put his headquarters in London. From a business perspective, do you want your headquarters in a village or in London?
Well, yeah, it makes sense to have it in London. Yeah.
So the place that he lives in is a 50 million pound facility, 40 million pounds in Tilford in the UK. It took them years to get the money to finally finish the project, and that's how they sucked Ahmadis dry. We're paying all this money. They don't build mosques, bro. They might build a few here and there. In America, most of the mosques that are built paid by one person. One rich Ahmadi in LA paid 80% of it. One rich Ahmadi in Houston built the whole thing, gave them the keys and the title. That's how they get them built. All the money, bro, they only give 20% of the money back. So say your local masjid takes in $20,000 a month. They imagine if they had to send $17,000 to their headquarters, national headquarters, and then they only send $3,000 of that back to run your operation. That's highway robbery. Muslims don't do that, bro. Muslims, we meet each other and we say, hey, let's buy some property and build a mosque, or let's renovate this place, and the money stays local. Or people come in like there's the Afghani relief funds and send money. A masjids allow these people to come in and get separate money.
Yeah.
That's not a problem. But the Ahmadiyya system is the Christian missionary system.
That makes sense, yeah. There's a lot of parallels that I see about it.
Yep. And Mirza Ghulam Ahmad called the Christian missionaries Dajjal. He called them Juj and Majuj. But then they're using their model. So they also got access to Africa after World War I and World War II. And they built schools. They get government funding in Nigeria to build schools. That's the business they're running in Africa, which is absolutely the Christian missionary model. Is build a hospital, build a school, build a mosque on the same property for the free, for the low, is what we say. You could get it all done, and then you might get a few converts, right? So Islam didn't spread like that. Islam spread to West Africa via trade. The camel. Muslims introduced the camel into West Africa. Never happened before. All of a sudden, the West Africans are rich. Mansa Musa, if you heard of Mansa Musa, he was a Maliki from West Africa. He's rich because he's got all the gold, and now the camels can take him to North Africa, to Egypt, and he's shipping his gold all around Africa and trading it for the most expensive things, right? In Indonesia, Islam spread by trade. Even in India, it wasn't, let's build a hospital or whatever. It was business model. It was, if you do business with the Muslims, they're not going to rob you. You're going to get good stuff. So, and they're still failing, bro. With all the money that they collect and spend, they built this mosque. In America, barely 100 people were converted in like the last 4 years. So come on, man. These guys are terrible at their job. Anyways,
Yeah.
and the more they attack me, the more the Khalifa gets attacked. So it's like, keep attacking me, man. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I'm not trying to, tell people I'm the imam at a local mosque or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what else, bro? And I can't see the comments, so I don't have my reading glasses on.
Trying to see. Bro, keep attacking the guy. At least he's a Muslim. Exactly. Bro, I'm getting so much hate on my latest vid. I'm Shazzy. See, the thing is about Shazzy's a decent kid. I won't lie, but he's gained a lot of support, and some of these TikTokers have really traded their Islamic views for a friendship with someone who's very large on TikTok, right? So this is why some of his friends they were slandering me, making up so much lies about me.
Are they envy?
No, most of them aren't actually Amity. In fact, he has one Amity friend in here, Samir. Samir's actually a pretty nice kid, even though he does. They all believe that we're not Muslim, so that's something I don't respect. But Samir's a decent kid too. They're all pretty decent, but the Muslims that are taking his side, and there's no hectic beef between us or anything like that. I mean, I made my videos. If he dislikes, whatever happened to me, then whatever happened between them, that's fine. But I mean, I'm just trying to tell people that Ahmadis do not believe that we are Muslim. They're not allowed to come to our janazah, not allowed to come to our weddings. So, and the Quran says not to take a disbeliever as a friend over a believer. But some of his Muslim friends have done that. But I mean, that's fine.
Yeah, that is strange. Where's he from? Is he from the U.S. or is he from Canada? Where's he from?
Yeah, he's from the U.S.
Okay, do you know what state?
Nah.
Okay, because I could pinpoint what Jamaat he belongs to, because there aren't that many of them. They only have like 7 or 8 Murabbis working in America. Maybe it's like 15 at this point. But I can pinpoint and get intel as to who these guys are, because I on the West Coast I knew all the Ahmadis pretty much. Wasn't that many. In LA there's a huge place of worship, and but everyone's leaving, bro. But they don't leave like me. That's the only difference. I leave and I left and I'm speaking out. Everyone else just sort of, to keep their mom happy, they'll go to Eid, but they don't pay anything. So I honestly see it as, without asylum, they're finished. That's the only way they're getting people well, because no one's converting. But if you come to America on asylum and the Ahmadiyya movement helped you come to America, these guys are loyal. They'll do anything for them because they've helped them so much in their life. And honestly, I think that's what my dad felt. My dad was a convert. He wasn't born Qadiani, but they gave him a wife. They gave him a job. He didn't even graduate high school. So he was like, oh my God, I'm so loyal to you guys for what you did to me. You helped me out so much. And so when I was a kid, I was like, I don't need their help. I was like, dude, I'm a straight A student. I literally, you know what I mean? I could walk in and do this math and spell. I could do all this stuff. I don't need someone to give me a hand. I just need an opportunity. So I was like, I don't have to be loyal to them, because it's like, and then, hey, I just read the books and said, this is, I remember the word, this is hogwash. What is this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So most Ahmadis are in fact closet atheists. They don't even believe it.
I actually saw a video of, and they can't deny this. They can't deny this, because I saw a video of Mirza Ghaffur Ahmad. He said that they are not praying anymore. The Ahmadis are not praying. They are not paying their chanda. They're straying away. They're believing atheist belief. And they can't say this is a lie. Everything that we talk about Ahmadis, their first thing is to say that we lie. That's that, and everything is a metaphor. Those are their excuses, right?
Right.
But there's a video from Mirza Ghaffur Ahmad saying that the youth are straying away from their Ahmadi views, and that the youth are becoming, or they're losing their youth to atheism.
They're drinking. Isn't that what he said? Drinking and using drugs. And he says they're not praying. They're all marrying outside. He was like, you're you've trained people for someone else's family. Like he was lashing out, bro. Lashing out. And then I started putting this stuff on as many channels as I could about, during the pandemic. And I really got on their radar because during the pandemic I got like 1 million views, or like March, April, May, June, July of last year, I got like 1 million views, right? And I was like literally like 30,000 on the blog, not the YouTube channel, the blog. And you know how hard it is to get 1 million views on a blog? Who's really reading, right? No one reads like that. So they sent my brother after me, go and expose him or try to say bad stuff about him. So yeah, man, I'm on their radar. They all know who I am. I'm on, check me out on Instagram, on Twitter. A lot of action on Twitter. And I'm not going anywhere, spreading knowledge. They boycott me locally. They won't let me show up to funerals, weddings, you name it. You name it. But it's whatever, man. I do it for Allah, so. So all right, man. What else? What are some top comments? Hold on, let me pull on the glasses. See if I see something interesting.
The strong ties with Israel. But yeah, recently I saw that they take money from Israel, like they receive money from them or something.
Yeah. Well, I'm not exactly sure if they take money, but they've supported Zionism since the 1920s. In fact, the Khalifa goes and says it's in the Quran that Jewish people were going to eventually return. And he quoted some verse of the Quran that doesn't mean that. So he was saying Zionism is in the Quran. So it's like, what? Well, by saying that, the British government gave him access to Israel. Back then, it wasn't Israel; it was Palestine. It was a British colony. So they were able to get a village to convert. It's called Kaaba Bir. It's an isolated mountain, but the Baha'is have their headquarters close by. It's in Haifa. So I guess in one of the suburbs of Haifa is a place called Kaaba Bir, and that's where they're at. They're dying there too. They were allowed to build a mosque in 1970. How ironic is that? The Palestinians aren't allowed water, and these guys they're allowed to build a mosque. I don't think Muslims have ever been allowed to build a new mosque. Like the old ones, they're like, okay, but you're probably not building a new one. So yeah, man, read Ray Register if you're interested in that. He wrote a thesis in 1970 about the Ahmadis of Kaaba Bir and their history up to 1970. So also on the blog, I find like old dissertations and theses, and I post them for people to read if they're interested. I read it all once upon a time, and now I just post it, and anyone can go read it. So, yeah, bro, they got access to Israel, and they love it there. But they're not in Palestine. They're not allowed in Palestine. In fact, I don't know if they're not allowed, but a Muslim girl married an Ahmadi boy, and one of the Palestinians wouldn't allow it. One of the Palestinian marriage councils were like, no, it was something like that. It made like news. And of course, Ahmadis cried persecution or something like that.
Well, I wouldn't see why they would cry persecution that the Muslims aren't allowing their own people to marry the Qadianis, when the Qadianis believe this as well. They can't marry us. And in fact, I think that they get excommunicated if they marry a non-Qadiani.
Yeah, without permission. Without permission.
Yeah.
You can do it, but that's like a 6 months. You got to write a letter to the Khalifa. They got to sign off. Bro, the Quran said we can marry Christians and Jews. You know what I mean? So what are these guys talking about?
Also, I have a friend that has known you for a while. He actually had helped me with my earlier videos on Ahmadiyya. He said that you know a few things, or you have said a few things on your blog about this Zafrullah Khan guy that they glorify because they claim that he's done so much for Palestine.
Right, he didn't do anything. He was their puppet who lost Palestine, who lost Kashmir. You know, and what did he say? You know, like we'll ask him, okay, what did he say? And what did he actually say? And no one knows. So he went in there and they were like, you're going to lose this case. Say these two things. He went in there and said it. And that was it. And then 10 years later, they gave him, he was the president of the United Nations. Something like that. They gave him a good job, bro. You know, when a guy listens, like for Trump, if he had a guy did everything he said, you get a promotion. Yep. So come on, man. Zafrullah Khan, he was a puppet of the British and then of the Americans. The colonizing never ended. If you think it ended, it didn't end. America's running the world. It's America, the French, and the British versus the Russians. And the Russians got China and North Korea and even some Muslim countries with them in Central Asia that are also their puppets. So South America is America's zone. No other foreign power can even go over there and do anything. I mean, look at Grenada and Panama. We just invaded them. We just rolled in one day and took the place. Africa is also ours. I think, you know, China's been in there, but nothing substantial recently. The Russians, for sure, are not making headways in Africa. I think they tried a few things here and there, but Muslims are caught in the middle, bro, and that's the story.
Yeah.
And these guys are poking fun at us. They even said the Palestinians are being punished because they rejected Mirza Ghulam Ahmad. How sick is that?
That's seriously messed up, man.
Messed up. So we flipped it on them. We said, well, why are Ahmadis being persecuted then? You know, and then they were like, oh, sometimes it's a test. I don't know, something like that. But we like destroyed that argument like in seconds. So
I just seen some comments. We should be careful when we call a Qadiani Akhi and Ukhti. They are not our brothers and sisters in Islam. So it's best not to call them Akhi and Ukhti because their founder, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, told people not to, or he said anyone who denied him of being a prophet is non-Muslim. So they believe that we're non-Muslim. And some of them use, they sugarcoat and say, okay, we believe you're Muslim, but we believe you're not fully Muslim. So the Ahmadis do not believe we're Muslim. Our scholars have found that they are not Muslim. But it's best that we don't call them our brothers and sisters in Islam.
Right. And the story is they don't call us non-Muslim. You know, like in 1923, the Khalifa said, stop saying it to them. They believe it. But there's a difference in believing it and saying it. So once the Khalifa ordered Ahmadis to stop, they stopped. You know, even though it's true or not. But they just sort of deny it and say, no, not exact. We mean like a Muslim who doesn't pray. We mean a Muslim who purposely doesn't fast. We mean a Muslim, you know, who's got some kind of problem with them. You know, that angle, and it's hogwash. It's hogwash. But that's what that's where they're at, bro, and they don't even care. That's just sort of the story. So what else, bro?
Oh man, I think that's it. I mean, I think I actually had a lot of questions to myself too. But there's a lot that I've actually learned off of this blog. When I was like first learning about their beliefs and stuff like that, I found your blog, I think through Twitter or something like that. It's pretty interesting, and it's like a lot of these Qadianis will say that when we present a fact to them or we present a proof to them, right, that goes against their leader or their founder, they always claim that we're alive.
Yeah, like a little kid, right? Yeah.
The second excuse is that everything is a metaphor.
Yeah, they'll just be like, Jude, custom call. That's all we hear. And then they'll be like, Rusty with Ahmadi answers will be like, swear to God, this is it. Well, why you always got to take it there? Like, they always immediately say, nope, forget about the topic. I'm saying you're lying. Make an oath now, and then let's allow. Well, bro, I'm trying to talk to you about this stuff, and you immediately jump to the oaths and all that stuff. So come on, man, it's all nonsense.
Razi actually blocked me on Twitter after I told him that he takes our imams, he takes our sheikhs out of context and makes it look like they agree with Ahmadiyya, which they don't. Because we have the full videos, and I've seen a video of Shabir Ali, and he talks about how the Orthodox Muslims, the mainstream Muslims, we believe that Isa alayhi salam ascended to heaven, he will come back. Then Shabir Ali states that Qadiani believe. He doesn't say he believes in it, but Razi takes this clip and he says, "Oh, Shabir Ali is agreeing with the Ahmadiyya view," which is untrue. But that's something that he does, and I called him out for it on Twitter, and he blocked me.
Yep, he doesn't even care. They do not even care. They will lie about everything. So Razi is an employee. You know, he's a paid employee.
I mean, that would make sense. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, he's a student at their Jamia. He's in his 5th year. He can't walk down the street alone in Toronto. He's so scared. And in 2 years, he's going to be an official employee. Right now, I guess he'd be in training. But that's what his story is. You know, he's an employee. So the jig is up. And obviously, Razi can't get a job. He probably couldn't operate in the world. You know what I mean? You know, he might be able to be the janitor or something like that, but yep. And Mirza Ghulam Ahmad even called himself the son of Allah, and then he says, "No, it's a metaphor. It's a metaphor." Then he said, "But remember, everything started as a metaphor. Remember, first he said, 'I'm Isa.' Oh no, it's a metaphor. Then he said, 'I'm a prophet.' No, it's a metaphor. Okay. Then he said, 'Oh, actually, I am Isa. I was wrong.' And he said, 'Oh, actually, I am a prophet.' Right? Then he said, 'No, there are other Mahdis. Maybe I'm not the only one.' Oh, and then he said, 'No, I'm the only Mahdi.'" This is what I'm telling you.
Yeah, so he actually initially, but maybe before the British started paying him, initially he actually believed that there could be no prophet after Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he's saying that if someone believed that there would be prophets after him, then they are outside the fold of Islam.
Right.
But then he claims, "Oh, I have received revelation from an angel named Tichi or whatever they call him." He says that he's receiving revelation, and then he corrects himself. "Oh no, that's another revelation. I was wrong. I'm not actually the metaphorical Jesus. I'm the real Jesus," and so on and so forth.
And so on and so forth. So everything he first said. So we think eventually he was going to claim like Baha'u'llah, and these guys are connected to Baha'ism. They quote the same verses. Baha'u'llah or the Bab or one of them guys also claim to be the Messiah, claim to be Jesus Christ, and they also quote a lot of the same verses. Almost all of them, bro. They quote the same stuff. So it's a spin-off. Maybe Baha'u'llah was for the Shias to be more palpable to Shias, and Qadianat was for Sunni Islam.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense that the British they would try to they have this whole idea of conquering and dividing within, and they were somewhat successful at it because Mirza has a lot of people who believe his lies. And the Baha'i religion as well. It's supposed to divide us as Muslims, and it's sad to see that people are born into Ahmadiyya, they're not born Muslim, and they're just raised in the Ahmadi religion. But if they weren't in that situation, then they would have been Muslim. Who knows? But it's pretty sad to see that this was put into place to divide us all. It's a political movement. Like you said, it's a business. But there's some people who believe it's the truth, believe it's the haqq, because they're just raised into it.
Right. So remember, under the Mughals, we were all in it was Hanafi fiqh, so we were all united, and there were a lot of Sufis, and the Shias were dealt with, but we were united. in Hanafi fiqh. The fiqhs unite us. So the first thing the colonizer did was to break all of that and said, now you're divided, and to encourage freedom of religion. Hey, you guys make your own sect. You go make your own sect. If you look, the Deobandis were made, the Barelvis were made, all in the same era. It was all just before Mirza Ghulam Ahmad. In that era, Islam, all the sects started coming out in British India. It wasn't like that under the Mughals.
Exactly, yeah.
So that's their plan. They also did it in Saudi Arabia. They did it all through Africa, and they even brought Ahmadiyya to Indonesia and to South America to help do the same thing, to make sure Muslims could never unite and create our own government, because they don't want that, like independently operated, and et cetera, et cetera. So in fact, Ahmadiyya supported the British against the Ottomans in World War One. The last Muslim government that actually had a chance to win, Ahmadis were against them. So
when I was talking about how a lot of these Ahmadis are raised in their Qadiani religion, right? And most of them are just raised that way, and they believe it's the truth. Shazzy said that the same can be said for us Muslims. However, me personally, I question my own faith, because we are encouraged to ask questions, right? I questioned my own faith, and I actually studied Ahmadiyya just in case of maybe it is the truth, right?
Right.
But there's too many things disproving Mirza Ghulam, right? And they use too much mental gymnastics and saying, well, this is a metaphor, that is not a metaphor, this is a metaphor, and there's just too many plot holes within their own beliefs. And this is the only reason why I am not an Ahmadi, and this is the reason why I firmly believe in Sunni Islam, because I took a step back and I looked at Islam from an outside perspective. I looked at Sunni Islam, Shia Islam, Ahmadiyya, and I found that Sunni Islam makes the most sense, because there's very little contradictions compared to the Ahmadi contradictions. Like, if someone can disprove my so-called prophet, then this guy can't be a prophet.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you look at his prophecies,
it's a whole nother can of worms that disprove. Like, we didn't even get to the prophecies yet, But this Sunni brother from Pakistan, he really put it really nicely in one sentence. He said, when Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam went on the Miraj, he says all the prophets were there. They all prayed behind him. Fact. So he asked the Ahmadis, was Mirza Ghulam Ahmad there? And they're just like Razi froze up. Razi said, first, before I answer that, give me all the names of the prophets who were there. What are you talking? Well, what? All 124,000 of them. They were all there, bro. All messengers. He just wouldn't even accept it. He said, like, he went so far. He said, Hatam al-Khulafa. Remember I was telling you about Hatam al-Khulafa? He goes, that meant the best of prophets. So Mirza Ghulam Ahmad was claiming to be the best. So now you're using. So Mirza Ghulam Ahmad claimed to be the best of prophets, and so was Isa. So Razi will make up his own arguments that make no sense, and then his website says unofficial. Everything says unofficial. So he'll be like, he won't admit to it, but he'll be like, I made a mistake. So what? And my brother said on one of his streams, it's like, they were like, we don't have to answer your questions. We're not here to answer your questions. Sorry. We gave you our answer. We don't care if you accept it or not. And that's the problem. I'm not like that. I'm not here to convince you of Islam. I'm going to tell you what it is, bro. This is what it is. I don't care if you join or not. You know what I mean? I'm not going to sugarcoat it to get you to sign up and then tell you, brother, Salat is 5 times a day. You know what I mean? Like, you got to wake up early too. I hope you're a morning person. You could read it and go back to sleep.
I read this. No, I didn't read it. I saw this video of Chef Duman Ali Khan. He put this perfectly too. Someone asked him, are Qadianis Muslim? And he said, how can someone be Muslim if they believe that there are other prophets after Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right?
Right.
And then Surah Baqarah says, O Muhammad, believed what was revealed before you and what was revealed to you. It never says what was revealed after you. But Mirza Ghulam Ahmad claims that there was revelations sent to him. But the Quran doesn't talk about revelations after Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So it's in the Quran that it disproves these people and their beliefs.
Yep, and it's wallazina, right? The ayah starts off wallazina. Is it yominuna bima unzila ilayka wa ma unzila min qablik wa bil akhirati hum yuqinun, right? And I just read it like so. Okay, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad didn't make this argument. The argument you mentioned, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad never said that. After he died, they said it. Let me just double check that. I'm quite sure they concocted this after he died, and they said, yeah, it was 1915. They switched up the last part and what is yet to come, whereas it should be wabil akhirate hum yuqinun, and it's the after, it's the akhirah. They're certain. We know. As a Muslim, I have comfort in my heart of the akhirah. You know what I mean? Like I tell people, when I die, be happy. Because where I'm going, it's not bad. I mean, it's not like I'm going to a terrible place. You know, they switched it and said, oh, the revelations that are yet to come. And that is absolutely nuts. And then look, if you look 3 verses after that, it's the phrase it starts off hatamallahu Allah, and that's a ayin. Hatamallahu ala qulubihim wa ala samihim, right? Allah has set a seal on their hearts. That's proving what hatam means. It's the same phraseology, right? I had Amnes tell me no, it's a different hatam. Well, what do you mean it's different? Oh, it's a verb and an adjective. I'm like, okay, but that doesn't, in this case, it's a permanent covering. And in the case of prophethood, it's a permanent covering. You know what I mean? It's set, bro. It's not going to open again. So yeah, man, they'll try it though. Like, I'll set them straight. They'll go find another Muslim who hasn't heard all this stuff, and they'll go run the sales pitch on him. And that's out of control. But they don't care. They don't care. And now it's a family business. The majority of the money doesn't even go to help people. I've looked up the balance sheet for the Canadian Jamaat. The money doesn't even go anywhere. Like, their employees get the majority of the money. The biggest bills, that's who it goes. They recently applied for the PPP in America during the pandemic. They got $500,000 from the U.S. government. Payroll protection program, because they said they couldn't pay their murabbis. That's a lie, right? Then they probably used that money, and they paid $300,000 for an ad in the New York Times. The Messiah has come. Like, dude, what is wrong with you people, man? You know, and for me, it's bad because my parents are still in, and I'd say 50% of my cousins, you know, are being forced to go, even though it's going to wear off, you know, in like 10 years. But
yeah, that's what I heard too as well. In like 20 years from now, no one's really going to be like they haven't really preserved their religion as well. So in like 20 years from now, not a lot of people, you know, would be following this religion. They claim, you know, whatever fastest run or whatnot. But in 50 years from now, I saw this graph that actually broke it down. You know, Muslims, then Qadiani, Hindu, Christian, whatever. There will still be more Muslims. In 50 years from now, there will still be more Muslims. So that's Sunni, Shia, Sufi, whatever, right? Jalaluddins, all of that, right?
yeah.
There'll be more Muslims than Qadianis in 50 years from now.
Yeah.
No, but only God knows, like, because there's going to be like 1 billion+ plus of us out there compared to only like maybe 4 or 5 million of them.
Yeah, is my video straight or is it tilted now?
It's tilted.
Ah, dang it. Okay, I'll hold it. Did you read about their convert scandal?
No, no.
They claim to have 100 million converts in from 98 to 2003, and it was all a lie. How about that? They claimed 40 million people converted in India alone in 2001. All a lie. So they're lying about stuff too, man. You know, a line about converts because no one's converting. Maybe a few crazy folk. I remember seeing like crazy people join, and I'd be like, "Oh my God, I hope this guy doesn't come up here and do something weird to us," because he looks like he's strange.
Yeah.
Like they get the strangest people to convert, man. Yep. So yeah, and now people are converting. Like, say someone falls in love with an Ahmadi girl, a Sunni Muslim. They're like, okay, you got to sign the bath form to marry this chick, this Ahmadi girl. So he'll be like, whatever, bro, I'll sign it. Not like I'm gonna do it. You know what I mean? So he'll do it. He'll sign up, and then some people will actually convert. Have you heard of Mahershala Ali, the actor?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know he converted over a girl, right?
Oh man, that's crazy.
He fell in love with some girl who was an Ahmadi, a black girl. Much respect, right? And then he wanted to marry her. They were like, bro, you got to convert. He converts, starts coming around. I used to see him in L.A. at the L.A. mosque before his fame like blew up, and then he ended up like he authentically joined, but he doesn't know anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But he's in, bro. Like he's in. Probably because his wife was a second generation African American Ahmadi. And okay, how about how they infiltrated America and the Nation of Islam? How much do you know about the Nation of Islam in Ahmadiyya?
Yeah, yeah. I didn't know that they have ties to each other, but both are like, because I believe the Nation of Islam was another political group to further divide the Muslim Ummah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the FBI started it, and the CIA. Come on, man. Same thing. Look, I'm big into Biggie and Tupac, man. I grew up in that era, and I'm telling you, the FBI was all over Tupac too, because he was Malcolm X in hip hop. He was Malcolm X with a bass line. So he had to go. He had to go. So all these guys, Malcolm had to go. You know what I mean? So yeah, bro. They used Ahmadi Qurans even to this day. Go on the Nation of Islam website. They use an Ahmadi Quran because they haven't even translated it into English. Not even their scholars.
It would make sense that they use those Qurans because in the Ahmadi translation and stuff like that, they make sure that they can twist things to make it seem like more prophets would come after Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. That's how the Nation of Islam is able to justify the existence of their leaders and stuff like that, because they believe that their leaders are prophets. The Ahmadis believe their leaders are their founders are prophets. So I'm sure that they would probably read from the same mistranslated Quran. Their leaders,
right? Always, bro. Yep. So they also believe that Isa alayhi salam is dead. It's out of control. And then Farrakhan took it over, even though W.D. Muhammad shut it down and said this is kufr. So I'm sort of the same thing. I'm like W.D. Muhammad. My parents were in this thing, and I'm like, this is absolute nonsense, Dad, Mom, and Dad. You guys been duped. You've been hoodwinked. That's exactly what I'm saying here. All to my parents, is you've been hoodwinked. I mean, look, you guys could barely read and write. Stop trying to be loyal to these guys and go and actually read what Mirza wrote, man. He used to eat pig fat. Like, I just figured this one out. This guy, instead of killing the pig, like the Masih is supposed to kill the pig, and so instead of killing it, he ate biscuits made in pig fat, gelatin, and then they tried to clean it up in 1961 because I read that some Amity kid did a video about my video, and he says, look, there's another reference from Malfuzat, but that's 1961. That's cleanup work. In the original books, that it doesn't story doesn't exist. Where so apparently he said no. Mirza said don't bring him in the house or something like that. I'm like, you guys made that up, obviously. Um, he drank tonic wine and then he blamed it on his wife. Dude, they blame it on his wife. They said no, his wife had some problems after giving birth, so they gave her some tonic wine to cheer her up. Right? He was on that opium.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, opium is morphine, codeine in the original form, bro. Then the medicines that they take, homeopathy. There was a huge controversy that just came out on Twitter when an Amity doctor admits that it doesn't work. So homeopathy doesn't work. It's a placebo, right?
Yeah.
What's worse is it's made in alcohol. So it's an alcohol and sugar pill that they're giving out. So MDs are drunk too, you know, because the pills and their halifas said homeopathy was from their god. So funny thing, guess what? It don't even work, bro. Excuse the ebonics.
Yeah.
You know, you can take them homeopathic pills. You know, some people would go to the doctor, you know, and this is in the medical field. You just tell a patient they'll get better. They're gonna get better, and they started getting better. You know, it's psychology of like being a happy human, I guess, right? So yeah, they also have that going on. You know, and let's not talk
Yeah.
about the closet gay situation, because that's also in the Mirza family.
That stuff is crazy that I read on your blog. That stuff is like very deep. That's pretty crazy. Like if people and I found a Reddit of ex-Amities, and they tell pretty traumatic stories about them being kids and being molested by their Murabis. Who I guess there was like an event or something that they would stay over their fellow Qadiani's houses. They'd molest kids and stuff, and then the Jamaat would try to cover it up because it gives their Jamaat a bad look. So I've heard stories about this as well, and then and the whole gay stuff. I read that on your blog, and it's pretty deep. It's pretty crazy.
Yep, in Allen, Texas, right now, there's that case going on of an Amity office holder sexually molesting an Amity kid. It's a pending case. Um, that's still going on. Let's see how it goes. I pray for the kid, man. He went through a lot, and the Jamaat shunned him. They were mad he went public. What do you mean mad he went public, bro? Like, do you know what
Yeah.
this kid went through, man? You know, but they don't care. They don't care. Um, you know, they let amnes get away with murder. Have you heard of Dr. Abdul Salam?
A little bit.
He's their sign. He won a Nobel Prize. He had hella issues. He used to drink alcohol. Like, there's a YouTube video on it. You know, so if you're a rich amity, you can get away with everything. They'll let you get away with it, right? So if you're poor, that's not going to happen. So I came from a poor family, so we were like treated like trash at like in like the Jamaat. You know what I mean? Like we were like lower caste people. So I was like, dude, in America we don't allow that. If someone when you treat someone like that, it might be a fight that day. You know, you're not going to treat us like that. It's not going to happen. You know, don't be rude and arrogant, you know, in real
Yeah.
life. Especially in the 90s, bro. You couldn't get away with it in the 90s. You know, now
Yeah.
everyone pulls their phone out, they can record everything. Back then, if someone was rude and whatever, you get punched in the mouth, and he had to go run to somewhere that had a landline or something like that. And then he'd go call the cops, and now everyone's gone. By that point, no one remembers what the guy even looked like. I mean, so now it's like you can't do any of that. It's off the table. Um, yeah, bro. That's the story, man. And the Khalifa's brother. So that guy Mirza Makfur Ahmed, that's the Khalifa's older brother.
Wow. Okay. I think I wanted to end this live stream off mentioning on how or in the way that Mirza Ghulam Ahmad died, because um, a lot of Sunnis like to say, yeah, he died on the toilet, because yeah, we believe this, but the Ahmadis will cover this up and say, oh no, he didn't. So could you kind of tell the people watching this the way he died, the way Allah Subhanahu wa Taala exposed him and humiliated him?
Yeah. So Ahmadis don't read this properly. So the story goes, 1908, he dies, right? And then abruptly, right? So we're not going to go to the story yet, because if you go on the timeline, they didn't give the story out till 15 years later. Anyways, so in 1908, they say he died of diarrhea. The Ahmadiyya Jamaat is officially admitting, saying in their newspaper, so what if he died of diarrhea or some other stomach illness? He's a martyr. The martyrs die of diarrhea. Well, the newspaper says he died of cholera. This is an independent newspaper, bro. The Vakil of Amritsar, they're Ahmadi friendly. In fact, they wrote an obituary. Part of the obituary, they call Mirza Ghulam Ahmad a good person, and then they say, "Oh yeah, and he died of cholera." So these aren't your enemies saying it.
Exactly. These are people who, when he was alive, they said he was a good person. Then when he's dying, they're just reporting his death in the obituary, saying that he died of cholera.
Of cholera. They won't even quote this newspaper. And so I found it 6-7 years ago, posted it on the internet. This information was never out. So we were saying he died of cholera. The Muslims in Lahore were saying he died of cholera. They're like, he died in one night. They're like, he was fine. There was nothing wrong with him. He just died in one night, right? So they're all saying he died of cholera. There was an issue at the train station. I'll get to that. So then Farquhar, who wrote about Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, says he died of cholera, right? Then there's another source. So there's like 3 independent sources saying he died of cholera. They never refuted it. They never said anything, right? 1923 comes around. Now this is 15 years later. The doctor who became a Lahori Ahmadi, Dr. Mirza Yaqub Beg, he gives his life story. He says, yeah, I was there when Mirza Ghulam Ahmad died. When I walked in the room, he was sitting on a wooden toilet. So this is where the story comes from. And it took me years to find this. This is where everyone said, oh, he died on the toilet. Because when his doctor walks in, he's forcibly being forced to sit on the toilet. The reason I say forcibly is because he was throwing up before that. He was already having diarrhea. The diarrhea itself is contagious. So if you touch this man's diarrhea, you could get cholera. So they got to make sure they're, getting rid of it properly, right? So this is what the doctor says. So 6 months later, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's wife says, no, here's the story. We went out. He was fine. We went out for a ride on the town. We say in Punjabi, sad ate chaliye. Right? As sad on the phirne gaya. Right? So he's out hanging out with his young wife. Son is like 65. His chick is like 30, right? He's kicking it, right? He goes out and then he comes back and then he starts having diarrhea. In 3 hours, 2 hours, the doctors are called. The doctor walks in, says, so then his wife says, and then he died in the morning. He prayed at 5 a.m. He died in the morning. That's sort of the story. Okay, and before that, I'm sorry, let me back up. In 1916, the Khalifa writes a book called Hazrat Ahmad. He talks about the diarrhea. He says Mirza got an injection. And I was like, injection? What injection did he get? This has never been answered by the Ahmadiyya movement. What injection did the boy get? Right? So he left it at that. So then the doctor says what happened. The wife says what happened. And then the Lahori Ahmadis come out later and they say, no, there was a white guy involved too. Well, who's the white guy? Dr. Sutherland. He wrote a certificate saying he didn't die of cholera, and that got him on the train. Well, I'm like, but this is 1940. You guys didn't mention the doctor and the cholera, the certificate. And where's the certificate? This guy gave you a certificate and you didn't keep it? as a archive? No, you didn't keep it, huh? Okay. So so then they start saying, so then he says that this Dr. Sutherland was called the night Mirza was dying and had already died. They're like, he's dead. They don't believe it. The Amnes couldn't believe it. So they call the white guy. So the white guy shows up. He goes, what are you guys talking about? I can't help. He's dead. What the hell am I going to do? It's too late. So he leaves, right? So Muslims get this story. Okay, so then 1927, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's father-in-law. So I'm backing up a little bit because I forgot. But I jumped to 1940. Now I'm going back to 1927. His father-in-law says, before Mirza died, he says to me, Mir Saab, mujhe wabai haza ho gaya hai. Right? And that's the last word he uttered. He says, we didn't hear him say anything after that. So this was in his life story. After he died, they published his reminiscences. And this is in there. So what do? They changed the second edition and the third edition, and they turned that into a question. So they turn it into, Mir Saab, mujhe wabai haza ho gaya hai. That's what they... But bro, in Urdu Punjabi, there's no question marks at the end of sentences. Right? So this is the biggest topic. Ahmadi kids are asking their parents about it. It gets everyone's attention. This is what it's about. This thing, they can't get past it. It's their Achilles heel. They're gonna lose. Everyone asks about it. And Mirza told other people that they would die of cholera. He told other people they would die of diarrhea.
Yeah.
So that's why it's a big deal. And there was an ex-Ahmadi who said that Mirza would die before August 1908 as part of his prophecy against him. He died. End of the story, bro. Halas. They're finished. Yep. So what else, man? And I've been streaming this on YouTube and just going just going through. It's like a one. I mean, they'll hear your voice, but they can see my face. But yeah, bro, I'm damaging them, and I'm not even done yet. I'm just getting started. I just started a year ago. Hasn't even been a year since I made my first video, right? But so I've had the blog for 6 years. I've had the YouTube channel for 6, 7 years, but I didn't come out until they attacked me personally on Twitter. And then I said, okay, I'll show my face. I don't care. You know, I'm tenured, so I can say whatever I want. So this is what I feel like saying.
Well, I think I've actually learned a lot from the vlog in my early days of trying to figure out, you know, what is it that they believe and who is Mirza Ghulam Ahmad. And you know, without this information that, you know, you're going out and you're looking for, right? Some people would fall into their trap, and I think that I at least I appreciate the work that you do. I have a lot of mutual friends who gain knowledge from whatever you put out on the blog as well, and there's still stuff that you're learning as well, mashallah. But I think a lot of people here too who have tuned in have learned a lot about how this. I mean, it's basically like a cult, but it's interesting that you know, not a lot of this stuff was out there, just because, you know, like we covered earlier, it's a political move, or not a political move, it's a political ploy from the British to divide us all, and I think you know, just by, you know, your background of being an ex-Qadiani as well, that it's very helpful that we know a lot about their Jamaat secrets. And I've learned a lot of Jamaat secrets from ex-Qadianis as well, with the whole, you know, I gain information from, you know, ex-Qadianis talking about, you know, their Marathis staying in people's houses and molesting kids. And, you know, the whole Janda scam, you know, they ask Janda from anyone. But this stuff is interesting to learn. And if, you know, there wasn't ex-Qadianis, maybe some of this stuff would have just stayed hidden.
For sure, brother. So Allah caused ex-Ahmadis to exist, you know, and he cursed their tongues, you know, and, you know, he's, I feel as if I'm in God's hands. This is God's plan for me to be here, for me to have been inquisitive my whole life, and to bring this stuff to the world, to the average person. Like some of these guys say, oh, his blog, he writes in simple English. And I'm like, you guys don't get it. That's what you have to write in, because not everyone's academic to be able to read something complicated in PhD level English. You don't have to do that. Same thing with giving a speech. If most of the time, I don't want to say nerds, but the really intellectual mathematicians, they don't give good speeches because they're robots, and they're using the hardest language possible to man. So it's like, I choose not to, even though I can. I just don't see the reason, because that's not even the crowd of who's listening. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, that's pretty much the whole story. And I'm available, bro, on many different channels and platforms to either find a ref if anyone needs a reference, or whatever the situation might be, bro. I'm here to work, man. I'm off all summer. I break out to play basketball. I'm still a hooper. And I'm in my 40s, so life is different than being in your 20s. So really, I'm just hanging out, doing push-ups, and running around, and then I'll jump on my computer and see who I can help, and and then go to the Islamic Center. I'm connected to the local Islamic Center, and I'll talk to you about that offline. You want to know where and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, bro, that's pretty much it.
I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming on here and sharing everything with everyone. Inshallah, I've learned a lot from this, and I hope a lot of people have as well. I just want to talk to the people before I go. My plan in the future, inshallah, is to hold debates with not only Qadianis but other non-Muslims as well. But inshallah, I am trying to educate people on why we should stay clear from this, and why we should stick to our Islamic values. These people do not believe that we are Muslims. Our scholars have an ijma that they are not Muslim. So, inshallah, we all are guided on the right path, inshallah, and stay clear from the lies, the deceptions of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, inshallah.
Inshallah, brother. Inshallah.
All right, guys. So I think that's the end of it. Thank you, guys, for getting on here, inshallah. Maybe do this again. But yeah, thanks to everyone who came on here, and thank you to Brother Bashir again.
Yep. Sounds good, brother. Assalamu alaikum and peace out.
Alaikum assalam, everyone.
All right, guys, that's pretty much it. I'm Audi 5000 if you speak that language. And I will catch y'all on the next one. This TikTok thing is going pretty good. Yeah, probably on the next one. In fact, I'm supposed to be working with a brother on Twitter who knows a lot about the nation. So, inshallah, that's coming up next. But that's all I got, ladies and gentlemen. Peace out.